Very good evening to everyone. So I think we will start now. We have about 170 participants as of now on Zoom, and I think about some 40-50 participants on YouTube Live also. Uh, so very good evening to everyone. I'm Yash Majidia. I am the moderator and the host of this entire session. And before we begin, I would like to wish every one of you and every one of us a very happy World Earth Day. And on this very special day, we are going to talk about a topic, disaster and urban management, which is basically the need of the hour, taking into consideration the impact that COVID-19 has made on our lives. Uh, so now, before we start, I would like to uh, ask our President, Shri K.C. Patel, to welcome all our members as well as speakers for the evening.
Good evening, everyone. I would welcome all GIC members, guests, and dignitaries. Speaker Dr. Vatsal Patel, Dr. V.M. Patel, and Professor Manvita Baradi for addressing this webinar on disaster and urban management organized by Study Circle Committee of the Gujarat Institute of Civil Engineers and Architects. This is the third webinar in series, and we successfully conducted 2 webinars over last weekend. Consider current COVID-19 situation, there will be requirement of enhanced disaster management, governance, and urban management going forward. Hence, at this juncture, we have organized this webinar forming a panel of experts having explore on city planning, infrastructure management, governance, policy, administration, and which is on disaster management. Each of the speaker will be addressing us for about 15 to 20 minutes. Hope this webinar will be insightful for all participants. So I request Chairman Study Circle Committee, Yash Majidia, to continue further proceeding. Thank you, Yash.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for your words. Now, before we start the presentation, I will just like to briefly present the overall structure, how we are moving forward today. So, yeah. So are you able to see the screen? Yeah. Yeah. So with the speakers we have today are Dr. Vatsal Patel, Dr. V.M. Patel, and Professor Manvita Baradi. Now, the overall structure of the presentation is that first of all, we have divided the entire presentation into 3 parts, which all the speakers will be handling independently. So the very first part will be taken care by Dr. Vatsal Patel. We'll be talking about what is disaster and learning from the past disasters and how COVID-19 is different from all other natural and man-made disasters. He will brief us on this aspect. Followed by that, Dr. V.M. Patel will talk about urban administration, what does community needs and how to plan the response mechanism in this situation, and also how we can use the technology better to control this disaster. And followed by that, Professor Manvita Baradi will provide some highlights on the role of community in urban management and implementation of strategy and prepare for community recovery. So it is a complete package of administration, management, as well as governance, which we have tried to compile in this single webinar. So now going forward, our first speaker, Shri Vatsal Patel. So to introduce to Dr. Vatsal Patel, he is a former chief city planner at Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation and former general manager at Sabarmati Riverfront Development Corporation. By qualification, he is BE Civil, ME Civil, MTech in Urban and Regional Planning, LLB, Diploma in Management, Local Self-Government Diploma, and last but not the least, PhD in Social Waste Management. And talking about his overall profile, he is an engineer, urban planner with over 29 years of experience in academics as well as in professional, mainly dealing into structural engineering and urban planning. He has worked for about 26 years with Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation as an HOD in Town Planning Department, AMC, and holding post of Chief City Planner. He has also held post of General Manager at Sabarmati Riverfront Development Corporation. He is also a technical consultant at Gujarat RERA Authority. He is also a member of various professional associations and served on the selection committee of Bureau of Indian Standards for Development of National Building Code. He has written and presented various research papers as well as involved with various academic institutions and universities. and he is also an ex-vice president of GICEA. So now I would request Shri Vatsal Patel to address the gathering today.
Thank you, Yash, and welcome all participants. Good evening, friends. Very important two things I want to share with you. Yash Majithia is coordinating this type of webinar, but the most important point is he is the son of our senior member Mukesh Bhai Majithia. He was our ex-vice president of GICEA. This concept of webinar was introduced by N.K. Patel of Sun Builders, and with the support of our immediate past president, Mr. Bhargav Bhai, and the team of GICA with KC Patel, our president, we start this webinar series, and today it is the third webinar, and in this webinar, we all welcome you. Very important point is, by this way, GICA is trying to share the knowledge in different fields and also give some change in daily routine and home quarantine days. Thank you, friends. My topic and today's topic is the disaster and urban management. I'm sharing my screen so everybody can see my presentation. Yes, is it okay? Yes.
Yeah, just yeah. You're able.
Okay. See, in day-to-day life, lots of time we use the word disaster. I give you one classic example. When we decide to do something very meticulously and ultimately if it is not done properly and we have no control over it, then we say, yaar kya kiya, pura disaster ho gaya, pura management barbad ho gaya. So this is the way we use normally the disaster word. But at the same time, lots of other definitions is also possible when you make the literature study of literature study and try to find out what is the disaster. Then that is very important definition given in Wikipedia and very broad and actually very perfect. Is the disaster is a serious disruption occurring over a short or long period of time that cause widespread human, material, economic and environmental loss, which exceeds the ability of the affected community or society to cope using its own resources. इसका मतलब यह है कि जब कोई भी डिजास्टर होता है वो ऐसा होता है कि जिसके ऊपर आप इमीडिएट कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते, और इमीडिएट कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते इसका मतलब यह है कि आपका जो भी रिसोर्सेज है, आप रेजिलियंस है, जो भी है वो आप उसका सफिशिएंट नहीं है कि आप उसमें से तुरंत कंट्रोल करके उसको बाहर आ सको या उसकी जो नेगेटिव इफेक्ट्स है उसको कम कर सको. जब ये सिचुएशन हो जाती है तब ये डिजास्टर होता है. मींस कि कोई भी चीज शुरू होती है तो पहले वो हैजार्ड होती है, बट जब हैजार्ड को आप कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते, if you are not able to control the hazards, then hazards become converted into the disaster. That I will show you in my next slide. The other definitions of disaster is like, disaster is an event that results a great harm, damage and death or serious difficulty. See, the corona is this type of disaster. You can consider this corona pandemic is a one type of disaster. Also the disaster is an adverse happening often occurring suddenly and unexpectedly. The same way, lots of other definitions is also available. But very important statement is, it is the people who matters the most, and without the people, we have no disaster. Why it is considered to be disaster? Because they are directly affecting our life, our human being, and our lives. So it is disaster. वरना कहीं भी पानी बह गया, बारिश हो गई, लैंडस्लाइड हो गया, उसमें कोई जानहानि नहीं हो रही है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो रहा है, तो वो एक नेचुरल फिनोमिनन की तरह चलता रहता है. ये धरती पे इतना बहुत सालों तक, बहुत सालों पहले ये सब चलता ही होगा. जिसको आज हम डिजास्टर बता सकते हैं वो चीज पहले डिजास्टर नहीं थी. बहुत सारी चीज डिजास्टर में कन्वर्ट इसलिए हो रही है कि इसमें हमारा एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग हमारा नेगेटिव इंटरवेंशन बहुत हुआ है. हम बहुत जगह जगह पे इस तरह हमने हमारा कब्जा जमाने का ट्राई किया है, जिसकी वजह से आज वो जो नेचुरल फिनोमिनन था उसको हमको डिजास्टर में कन्वर्ट हो गया, ऐसा हमको लग रहा है. बट ऑफ कोर्स it is the people who matters the most, and the without the people we have no disaster. See, classification of disaster, this is very important. Normally we can say that the man-made disaster and human-made disaster, or a natural disaster and man-made disaster. But as I earlier told you that सबसे पहले ये होता है कि hazard होता है, that is important. The hazard is if it is not controlled, or insufficient capacity of response to hazard will convert all hazards to the disaster. ये चीज हमको हमेशा याद रखनी चाहिए. जैसे मैं आपको एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल दे रहा हूं कि जैसे कोई जब कैलिफोर्निया में लास्ट फायर हुआ था, मैं अभी आपको एक पिक्चर दिखाऊंगा, उसमें एक फायर हुआ था, एक रेसिडेंशियल एरिया में हुआ था, एंड दैट अल्टीमेटली इट वाज स्प्रेड इनटू द एंटायर फॉरेस्ट एरिया ऑफ द कैलिफोर्निया. तो अगर हम वो टाइम पे उसको कंट्रोल नहीं कर सके तो वो बड़ा हैजार्ड हो जाता है. द सेम वे कोई भी लैंडस्लाइड होता है, वो लैंडस्लाइड के बाद अगर हम उसको कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं तो वो हैजार्ड नहीं है, वो एक्सीडेंट है. अरे वो डिजास्टर नहीं है, वो जस्ट हैजार्ड है, एक्सीडेंट है. बट अल्टीमेटली if you are not able to control and it continue to destroying the things, then it convert into the disaster. The same way नेचुरल डिजास्टर्स में दो टाइप के डिजास्टर्स होते हैं. जो फर्स्ट इज मोनोक्यूजल. मोनोक्यूजल का मतलब है कि एक बार हुआ, बाद में वो बार नहीं होता है. और दूसरा होता है मल्टीक्यूजल. मल्टीक्यूजल का मतलब है कि वो बार बार हो सकता है. जैसे कोई स्टॉर्म है, हीट वेव है, फ्रीजिंग मतलब स्नो का है, अर्थक्वेक है, वो एक बार आ गया, वॉल्केनिक इरप्शन है, एक बार हो गया, बस हो गया. ऐसा नहीं कि कब कितना चलेगा, कब तक होता रहेगा, हमको मालूम नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं होता. दैट इज मोनो. बट मल्टी में जैसे होता है लैंडस्लाइड. एक बार लैंडस्लाइड हुआ, फिर ज्यादा बारिश हुआ, फिर लैंडस्लाइड हुआ, और वो चलता ही रहता है. जैसे सेम वे द ड्रॉट, दुष्काल. दुष्काल में ऐसा होता है कि हम हर रोज हम सोचते हैं कि अब बारिश आएगी, बारिश आएगी, बारिश आएगी, नहीं आती है. और दुष्काल कितना लंबा चलता है, वी डोंट नो. The same way flood, we try to predict the flood, but we are not, every time we are not success to control the flood. And in my slide I specially mentioned this epidemic. Epidemic means like this Wuhan COVID-19. वो एक छोटा सा हैजार्ड था जो वुहान से शुरू हुआ और उसको हम कंट्रोल नहीं कर सके, तो वो एपिडेमिक में से पैंडेमिक हो गया. वो पूरे वर्ल्ड में उसका फैलावा हो गया और हम उसको कंट्रोल नहीं कर सके. तो उसको अगर हमने कंट्रोल कर लिया होता अगर वुहान में ही, तब भी वो डिजास्टर नहीं बनता. पर आज वो डिजास्टर के स्टेज पे आ गया है. द सेम वे मैन मेड और ह्यूमन मेड डिजास्टर्स भी होते हैं. जैसे फायर है, एक्सप्लोजन है, कोलोजन है, शिप ब्रेक्स है, स्ट्रक्चरल कॉलैप्स है. बीइंग अ स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियर, I can give you lots of example of the structural collapse also, but they are man-made things. War, आजकल जिसको भी चाहे पूरी कंट्री, पूरे वर्ल्ड में लोग को वॉर की बात ज्यादा करने लगे हैं. बट वॉर भी अल्टीमेटली वो डिजास्टर में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगी तो मालूम नहीं पड़ेगा. द सेम वे इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस. आज ये जो बाय प्रोडक्ट ऑफ दिस कोविड-19 है, वो इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस है. वो भी अल्टीमेटली इट विल कन्वर्ट इनटू द डिजास्टर इफ वी आर नॉट एबल टू कंट्रोल इट इन टाइम. सो these are the different classifications of disaster. But always remember that disaster occurs only if you are not able to control the hazard. So that's why hazard is more important to control. See few of the pictures. This tsunami in Tamil Nadu, this is a natural hazard, natural disaster. An earthquake of Gujarat, these are natural disasters. Hurricane Titli of Odisha, Australian bushfire, these all are natural disasters. Drought, natural disaster. See this flood in Bombay, so many times it was debatable that whether it is a disaster or whether it is a natural disaster or man-made disaster. You can say that for the Bombay type of situations, lots of things is actually, okay, it's a disaster, but partly it is man-made also, because lots of change, lots of drainage, lot of water channels, they covered it by the slums or by the solid waste. And that's why these type of situations occurs in Indian cities. And man-made disasters, the worst part we noticed is the Bhopal grass tragedy. We never forget this since even today. As I earlier told you, that fire incident in California, the Ukraine nuclear hazard, these all are the man-made hazards or man-made disasters, sorry. The growing rate of urbanization and increase in the population density, our cities can lead to certain of the creation of the risk, especially when urbanization is rapid, poorly planned, occurring in the context of widespread poverty. Growing concentrations of people and economic activities in many cities as then overlap these areas, high risk exposures. ये चीज बहुत जरूरी है समझने के लिए कि क्यों है ऐसे डिजास्टर होते हैं। डिजास्टर होने का रीजन आज भी हम देख रहे हैं कि सबसे ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम कहाँ है, जहां हाई डेंसिटी है, जहां आपके पास प्रॉपर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं है, जहां आपके पास डिटेल उसका कोई डेटा नहीं है, ये सब जगह पे सबसे ज्यादा लॉस होता है। और पर्टिकुलरली अर्बनाइजेशन अगर प्रॉपरली उसको वेल प्लान, वेल थॉट नहीं किया जाता है, तब ये सब चीज में ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम होता है। So I always in favor that whatever you do, whatever the expansion, whatever the things, but at the same time, at least human beings should give some thought over the well-planned and well-organized development. The estimate suggests that by 2050, urban population exposed to cyclone will increase from 310 million to 680 million. See the situation. We are going worse and worse day by day. While exposure of major earthquake will increase from 370 million to 870 million. World Bank का रिपोर्ट है कि डे बाय डे आप कितना सारा एक्सपोजर हो सकता है। अर्थक्वेक होगा तो आज तक 370 मिलियन अफेक्ट होते हैं, 250 तक में 870 मिलियन पीपल अफेक्ट हो जाएंगे। So how to control all this disaster? This is the main question we have in our mind. Up to 90% of the people in urban areas in low income countries live in unsafe, exposed housing. See, आज चाहे हम कुछ भी कहे कि अमेरिका में इतने डेथ हो गए, यहाँ इतने डेथ हो गए, चाइना में इतने डेथ हो गए, बट आप देखो कि उसका स्प्रेड जितना जल्दी इतने कंट्रोल के बाद इंडिया जैसे कंट्री में हो रहा है या जो अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज में हो रहा है, अगर आप सोचो कि इसको इतना कंट्रोल नहीं किया होता, इतना जल्दी लॉकडाउन नहीं किया होता, तो व्हाट विल बी द सिचुएशन ऑफ अवर पुअर पीपल? Because we are not able to give him the hygienic and proper resident area and proper working area. That's why these type of disaster take more toll from them. इतने डिजास्टर्स के हम क्या सीखते हैं? ये सब डिजास्टर्स, इतने सारे डिजास्टर एक बाय एक होते जा रहे हैं. what we are going to learn from this disaster? We following lessons which learn from this crisis situation. Some of lessons are listed here. This is not the exotic list, but some of them. Take about what happened, talk about what happened. See, after the disaster, we can talk with our children, grandchildren, old people, and try to understand what happened to them. What was their perspective. Disseminate the preparedness information. Schools, कॉलेज, वो सब में कुछ उसके ऊपर कुछ सिखाते हैं. जैसे हम अर्थक्वेक के बाद हमने स्कूलों में लड़कों को, स्टूडेंट्स को सबने ट्रेनिंग दिया था कि भाई अगर अर्थक्वेक आए तो कैसे करना है, आपको टेबल के नीचे जाना है, दीवार के नजदीक नहीं रहना है, या खुले में चले जाना है, या आप मल्टी स्टोरी पे हो तो आप रूफटॉप पे चले जाओ. ये सब जो ट्रेनिंग देते हैं, वो ट्रेनिंग वो सब डिजास्टर के बाद हम सीखते हैं कि हमको क्या करना है. जैसे कोरोना के बाद भी हम बहुत कुछ सीखने वाले हैं. Learn lessons from nature. ये बहुत important है. We should learn lesson from nature. Disaster teaches to destructive power of nature and also the power of nature to regenerate. अभी अभी हम बहुत सारे वीडियो देख रहे हैं कि गंगा का पानी शुद्ध हो गया है, हरिद्वार में हमको अच्छा पानी दिख रहा है, ये जो फॉरेस्ट में जो एनिमल्स थे वो अब सिटी में आने लगे हैं। कभी अभी थोड़े दिन पहले देखा कि जलंधर से हिमालय हिमालय दिखने लगा। तो देखो, जो चीज गंगा का इतने करोड़ों का बजट देने के बाद भी हम गंगा क्लीन नहीं कर सके थे, बट वो नेचुरली क्लीन हो गई। तो नेचुरल हैज द सुपर पावर एंड इट लीड्स टू ए अनडाउटेडली ट्रांसलेट इनटू द लाइफ लेसन्स टू स्ट्रेंथ एंड रेजिलियंसी। वो खुद रेजिलियंस है नेचर। Examine the data. Lots of data we generate during this type of hazard, and we examine the data, and on the basis of data we find out what is the its effect in the sociological, demographical, political and economic aspects affecting social justice movement and independence. Value of unity. Times of crisis can have the effect of unifying people. आज आप देखो, घर पे बैठे हो, कोई किसी को कोई चिंता नहीं है कल बिजनेस का क्या होगा, कौन क्या बोलेगा, क्या कहेगा, क्या करेंगे, क्या नहीं करेंगे. Unifying people and the triggering of feeling of empathy can cause the people to work together and develop common goals. This is very important. This is the learning from such type of disasters. Discover the best that life has to offer. Yes. Other is the after learning, we make lots of public regulations and investment in the public works. So, as per examples, after the earthquake, our GDCR of Gujarat was revised and new regulations came into the force. And obviously that new regulations is better than previous as far as the earthquake norms is concerned. The development of resilience infrastructure. सेम वे अर्थक्वेक के बाद हमने बहुत सारे जो नए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर्स किए, वो अर्थक्वेक रेजिलियंस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का डेवलपमेंट हुआ. पर उसके पहले हम इतना इंपॉर्टेंस अर्थक्वेक को नहीं दे रहे थे. एडिक्वेट सर्विस प्रोविजंस. See, after this, suppose coronavirus, we understand that what is the importance of our health services. So after this completion, or after when this corona epidemic is over, we understand that the value of healthcare. So in future, if this type of things again happen, we will be well equipped with the health facilities. Risk transfer. Cross subsidize the insurance schemes which provides poor households with the cost of year insurance cover. See, बहुत सारी चीज ऐसी होती है कि जब वो मिडिल क्लास, अपर मिडिल क्लास को भी अफेक्ट नहीं करती, बट पुअर क्लास को बहुत इफेक्ट करती है. तो उसका जो रिस्क ट्रांसफर है वो पुअर क्लास टू द अपर क्लास कैन ऑल्सो बी वन ऑफ द लर्निंग फ्रॉम दिस. इफेक्टिव रिस्क गवर्नेंस. सी, आज का टॉपिक यही है कि गवर्नेंस का अर्बन मैनेजमेंट कैसे होता है, अर्बन गवर्नेंस में ये मैनेजमेंट डिजास्टर में कैसे होता है. तो एवरी डिजास्टर गिव अस सम न्यू लेसन्स टू लर्न, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली we make some changes in our management, we make some changes in our governance body also. We make lots of new laws, new bylaws, new regulations, new act to counteract against such type of disasters. Urban development requires including and cooperative with the formal and informal sectors. See, nowadays our main worry is the informal sectors. We always think that this informal sectors is in bad shape. So it is including and cooperating development is important, and we will learn from we learned also things from the past disasters. Urban development goes hand to hand in the poverty and inequality reductions, environmental management and climate change adaptation. This is a very important point, that whatever the urban development you want to make, do it, no problem. But always consider the environmental issues as well as how it will affect the climate, or how climate will going to react of your development. This is equally important. Strengthening the urban governance to involve and empower citizens and build partnerships. The civil society and the private sectors is probably the most important factors in addressing urban risk. See, this topic is very important. That's why today we are addressing it. My next two speakers will give some light on this point. To build resilience towards disaster. See, this learning is important because by learning this, we create the resilience for certain disasters. Organize for disaster resilience, identify and understand the use of current and future risk scenarios, strengthen the financial capacity of resilience for resilience. See, आज हम सोच लिया कि भारत का इकोनॉमी एकदम डाउन हो जाएगा. क्यों हम ऐसा सोच रहे हैं? क्योंकि हम पहले से इसे फाइनेंशियल रेजिलियंस है नहीं हमारा. दैट्स व्हाई हम अभी सोच रहे हैं कि यूएसए का इकोनॉमी इतना डाउन हो गया, उतना डाउन. अरे भाई, यूएस का इकोनॉमी वो बुलेट ट्रेन जैसा है, वो फिर से पटरी पे आएगा, वो फिर से पकड़ लेगा. और हमारा है बुलोक कार्ट जैसा है, फिर से शुरू होगा तो भी इतना स्लो चलेगा कि हमको फिर से उसको नॉर्मल सिचुएशन में लाने में प्रॉब्लम होगा. बट आफ्टर दिस डिजास्टर वी लर्न दैट how to make our financial capacity resilience, safeguard natural buffers and enhance ecosystem protective functions. See, lots of landslides, बहुत सारे लोग मर जाते हैं हर बार. हरिद्वार, वो ऋषिकेश का और केदारनाथ का हमारे पास एग्जाम्पल है. केदारनाथ में क्या हुआ था? जो एरिया था, सभी जगह पे इतना एंक्रोचमेंट बाय डेवलपमेंट, so ultimately waterways was stopped. And they ultimately it disaster took place at that time. तो हमको थोड़ा इकोसिस्टम को भी रिस्पेक्ट करना चाहिए. that we are going to learn from this type of disasters. Strengthening institutional capacity for resilience. All institutions, just like I tell you that just now all the educational institutions are doing this online education and online examinations. Of course, it is not a permanent solution, because कॉलेज में और स्कूल में हम सिर्फ पढ़ने के लिए नहीं जाते हैं, बहुत कुछ दूसरा सीखना पड़ता है, और सीखते हैं हम जब जॉइंटली रहते हैं. बट कभी कभी ऐसा हो गया कि हमको घर पे रहना है, तो दिस इज द वे वी शुड बी एबल टू डू एंड द स्ट्रेंथन द इंस्टीट्यूशनल कैपेसिटी, सो वी कैन लर्न फ्रॉम होम आल्सो. इंक्रीज द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रेजिलियंस. अपना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, या जस्ट लाइक अभी मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि हम जिस वेबिनार की बात कर रहे हैं, अभी वेबिनार से, तो अभी हमारा ब्रॉडबैंड ये सब फैसिलिटी बहुत अच्छा है कंपैरेटिवली पास, तो हम कर रहे हैं अभी, और हम उसको और भी ब्रॉडबैंड वाला अच्छा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप कर सकेंगे तो बेटर, इससे भी अच्छी तरह हम काम कर सकते हैं. तो ये सब चीज हमको रेजिलियंस, हमको ये लर्निंग में से सीखने मिलता है. नाउ द इश्यू इज हाउ COVID-19 इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अदर डिजास्टर. अभी हम इतना परेशान क्यों हो गए हैं? वाई हमारा ये सिचुएशन है कि हम इतना घबरा गए हैं? अभी हम किसी से मिलने से भी डर रहे हैं. हमें कुछ भी करने से हमको ऐसा लग रहा है कि जैसे में अभी घर से बाहर पग रखेंगे तो हम मर जाएंगे. सही बात है, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग इज कंपलसरी हो गया है. क्यों ये सब हो गया है? क्योंकि सबसे पहले ये है कि ये मल्टी कैजुअल डिजास्टर, सो इट इज स्प्रेड एंड इफेक्ट इज डिफिकल्ट टू प्रिडिक्ट. कल क्या होगा किसको पता? हमको अभी उसका प्रिडिक्शन नहीं कर सकते हैं. दैट्स व्हाई हम हमारी जात को, हम मानव जात को सेफ रखने के लिए ये सब प्रिकॉशंस ले रहे हैं. कंट्रोवर्सी सराउंडिंग द केस, सराउंडिंग द कॉज. सी, आज लेटेस्ट मैंने एक वीडियो आया मेरे पास कि भाई ये मैन मेड है, चाइना ने ये किया, चाइना ने वो किया. अरे भैया, मैन मेड है या नेचुरल है उसको बाद में बात करते हैं, बट सबसे पहले हमारे पास उसका DNA RNA नहीं है. हम इसको कैसे कंट्रोल करेंगे? तो कोविड, दैट्स व्हाई इज डिफरेंट देन अदर डिजास्टर, कि हमको मालूम ही नहीं है कि आगे हमको कितना जाना है, उसको कैसे कंट्रोल करना है, इसको कैसे रोकना है. ड्यू टू इट्स नेचर ऑफ एक्सटेंसिवली कॉन्टेजियस, इट स्प्रेड एंड आउटब्रेक इन अनकंट्रोलेबल. मतलब 2 महीने 3 महीने में तो पूरे वर्ल्ड को उसने कंट्रोल में कर लिया. पूरी जगह पे कहीं भी आप कोई भी बंदा कहीं भी जाता है, किसको भी टच करता है, किससे भी बात करता है, और वो कोरोना इन्फेक्टेड हो जाता है. WHO declared the COVID-19 as a pandemic in month of March. बहुत कम केसेस में ऐसा पैंडेमिक डिक्लेयर करना पड़ता है. तो जब कोई WHO इसको पैंडेमिक डिक्लेयर करता है, इसका ही मतलब ये हो जाता है कि दिस इज डिफरेंट देन अदर डिजास्टर एंड वी हैव टू बी मोर कॉन्शियस अबाउट इट. To mitigate the outbreak, healthcare facilities and equipments are limited and not fully reliable. See, अभी भी हम सोच रहे हैं कि हमारी जो टेस्टिंग किट्स है वो बराबर है कि नहीं, सही रिजल्ट देती है कि नहीं. 2 बार करना पड़ता है, 3 बार करना पड़ता है. वन शॉट हम कह नहीं सकते कि ये कोरोना अफेक्टेड पेशेंट है या नहीं है. तो हमारे पास फुल्ली रिलायबल रिसोर्सेज भी नहीं है. lack of resilience framework to execute the plan at community level against such outbreak. अभी भी हमको मालूम नहीं है कि खाना लेने के लिए कहाँ जाना है, किस तरह हमारा सप्लाई चेन मेंटेन होगा. वी डोंट नो. क्योंकि हमको पहले से ही मालूम नहीं है कि कितना दिन तक हमको घर में रहना है, कहाँ तक का हमको राशन चाहिए, कहाँ तक की हमको फैसिलिटी चाहिए। ये इसलिए प्रिडिक्ट नहीं हो रहा है कि ये ऐसे एपिडेमिक का, ऐसे पैंडेमिक का हमारे पास डेटा नहीं है। डेटा नहीं है मतलब पास्ट एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है। पास्ट एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है तो हम उसके लिए आज तैयार नहीं है। लेक ऑफ इफेक्टिव लीगल फ्रेमवर्क टू कंट्रोल द पैंडेमिक। हर रोज नए नए लॉ बनाने पड़ते हैं, बार बार कहना पड़ता है कि अगर बाहर निकले तो 188 सेक्शन से काम होगा, इससे होगा। आप 188 को पढ़ो, इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग है ही नहीं कि जिसकी वजह से हम इसको कंट्रोल कर सके। बहुत सारे एपिडेमिक को और डिजास्टर को कंट्रोल करने के लिए लॉज भारत कंट्री में बने हुए हैं। Our country is doing all such things, but not particularly for COVID-19 or such type of pandemic. The lack of administrative framework against such outbreak leads to trial and error method. आप देखो कि हर रोज अहमदाबाद म्युनिसिपल का कमिश्नर 24/7 वो खुद काम कर रहे हैं, पूरा कॉर्पोरेशन का डिपार्टमेंट काम कर रहा है, फिर भी कभी ना कभी कोई ना कोई जगह से आपको नेगेटिव न्यूज मिलते रहते हैं। अभी 2 दिन पहले गवर्नमेंट ने स्पेशल सीनियर लेवल ऑफिसर्स को पर्टिकुलरली टास्क बेस्ड अपॉइंटमेंट देना पड़ा। ये सब क्यों करना पड़ता है? क्योंकि हमको आगे का एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है। हर रोज नई चैलेंज आती है और नई चैलेंज को कोप अप करने के लिए हमको नए एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सेटअप को सेट करना पड़ता है। दैट्स व्हाई दिस कोरोना वायरस इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अदर डिजास्टर एंड द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट इज, कल तक आप देखो तो 1,71,000 1,71,000 डेथ plus death due to corona. This is not a small thing. इतने सारे लोग अगर एक तरफ मर रहे हैं तो उसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए हमारे पास जो चाहिए वो है नहीं, और वो कब हो सकता है वो हमको मालूम नहीं है। That's why corona COVID-19 is a different than other disasters. अर्थक्वेक हुआ, 2 दिन बाद चली, 2 दिन के बाद हमको मालूम पड़ गया कि क्या होगा, कितने लोग मरेंगे, कितना होगा, बात खत्म। उसके बाद हम सब कुछ अपना रूटीन लाने के लिए हम पूरी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव लगा सकते हैं। अभी हम ये नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि हमको मालूम ही नहीं है कि ये कितने तक चलेगा। Thank you very much. My presentation is over and now my next speaker addressing is Dr. V.M. Patel, and question answer probably will be done afterward.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vatsal Patel. And in case you have any of the questions, you can see a question and answer tab at the bottom of your screen. So maybe you can press it, enter your name and write your question. We will try to get it answered at the end of the session. Thank you. So it was very nice presentation from Dr. Vatsal Patel. Thank you very much, sir. And now going forward, we have a second speaker, Dr. V.M. Patel. To introduce him, he is principal at Adani Institute of Infrastructure and Engineering, Ahmedabad. By qualification, he has done BE Civil Engineering, ME in Structural Engineering, and PhD in Civil Engineering in 2011. Additionally, he has availed various certificate courses from Harvard Business School, Howard University, Massachusetts, US. So talking about his overall profile, currently serving as a principal at Adani Institute of Infrastructure Engineering, Ahmedabad. He has a very rich experience of teaching and research, consultancy and professional training for more than 2 decades. He has also provided training to National Institute of Disaster Management and Gujarat Institute of Disaster Management. He is a member of Board of Studies at GTU, SP University, Visnagar, and Ganpat University, Mehsana. He is also a recipient of Pedagogical Innovation Award from GTU Innovation Council, as well as Certificate of Appreciation from Institute of Seismological Research. He is interviewed by leading news channels as a tsunami expert and have published technical articles in print and electronic media. And he is also a managing committee member at GIC. So with this, now I would like to request Dr. V.M. Patel to deliver his presentation. Dr. V.M. Patel, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Very good morning to one and all. First of all, I would like to thank GICA President K.C. Patel sir, the members of GICA, and all the participants to use this e-media for this such kind of knowledge sharing sessions and make it successful. Continuing the previous session talk of Dr. Vatsal Patel, first of all, I would like to mention three particular words which are very closely associated with disaster management. The first and foremost important is prevention. But it is not possible, particularly in case of the COVID-19, because elimination of risk is not possible in such kinds of pandemic events. The another one is the mitigation, which is nothing but the reduction of the risk. Yeah, if our mitigation strategies are good enough, then we can reduce the risk, but it doesn't mean that we can make it zero. And the last but not least, that is preparedness. Yeah, it is possible in some of the disasters, but it is not possible in case of this pandemic COVID-19, because during the lockdown time, you cannot move out. For any disaster management, first of all, you have to understand what is that kind of disaster is, why it is, what is the cause root. So the cause root of COVID-19 is known to everyone, but which probably people are saying that spread from the Wuhan laboratory. When we are talking about such kind of disaster management, the first and foremost important thing is you have to estimate the risk. You have to do the risk assessment, and you have to define a team which will work on the strategy part. That particular team will prepare policy for the whole nation or maybe for the whole area. So here in India, particularly, our core team is of 11 plus 1 Modi Sahab himself, so total 12% team. When we talk about the role of different administrators, it is right from the Prime Minister to the peon, or you can say up to the last man, whomsoever is living in this country. Everybody is directly or indirectly associated in this particular whole operation. Obviously, the strategies or policies are derived from the topmost level, and slowly and gradually move downwards. It is on the implementation part. While deriving some strategies, you need some data. And to have those data, you are having some advanced technology available nowadays. And one of them is drones, which you can collect a lot many data with live locations. You can have a satellite monitoring system also, which in China, Wuhan guys have utilized to select the location, proper selection for the temporary medical center. Even you can use satellite data to gather the live streaming data of vehicles or persons or so many other things also. And obviously the GIS platform, which is nowadays most important for working with such kind of disaster management operations. Everybody might be thinking that rather than splitting it, the whole lockdown period into 3 phases, the initial 4-5 days curfew or lockdown, then after phase 1 lockdown, and then after phase 2 lockdown. Why don't we announce right from the day 1, it is a 45 days lockdown? But if you see minutely, it has been what the whole operation has been done very systematically, very scientifically. On the day 1, just for the testing purpose, probably people are thinking that it was a testing of Janata curfew. No, it was not a testing. The Janata curfew is purely for cleaning and sanitizing of all the public places, all the streets. After getting the success in the phase 1, the phase 2 was 4-5 days lockdown. During those 4-5 days, they have tried to control the virus to spread. And during that particular time period of 4-5 days, they prepare the strategy. They prepare the strategy and communicate it with the lower people. Because when the upper team, the central team is working, obviously the whole operation, if you talk about the India, the total committee members, those who are working directly or indirectly with reference to this disaster management, is not less than 10 crore people. And the communication between those guys is very important. And to have a proper communication, you are supposed to build up some links, communication strategies. You are supposed to map what are the resources available, what are the weaknesses of your whole system, what are the strength points of your system. And to do that homework, we can say, you need sufficient time. And that sufficient time, the Indian government has taken right from 20th to 25th March during the initial temporary lockdown. Then after, the first phase of lockdown came up to the 14th of April, which successfully we have completed, except few of the cases of which we have seen in the newspaper. Yeah, no any system, whether you talk about India or you talk about that, no any system which is purely proof. So everywhere there would be a possibility of some errors. And obviously we have also made some errors. If you talk in terms of making errors, probably I could say there was one mistake which we could eliminate in the initial phase. And that was if right from the beginning in the February month, if we have stopped all the incoming of foreign delegates or foreign tourists or those who have visited the foreign nations where there was an infection of corona, then probably the condition of Wuhan and the another incident of Delhi episode, if such kind of incidents, if we have neglected or eliminated, then probably the condition of India would be little better than what it is as on today. In the second phase of this lockdown, we have received some partial relaxation. As Vatsalbhai was talking about, there would be a possible disaster of economics in India, and this particular partial relaxation is given to take care of that. If we talk about this whole COVID-19 scenario, some of us might be thinking that this lockdown or this quarantine are the new words for us, and this is the first time in the history where different countries or India has used. No. Quarantine word is used first time in the 14th century. And it was initiated from Italy. In London in 1854, Dr. John Snow has also used the strategy of isolation and lockdown to take care of the cholera. If you see here, the very beautiful case study is given from the influenza pandemic in 1819. If you see the first month, October, the situation of two cities in the US, it was very high influence of particular disease, influenza virus. After lockdown on 25th of October, you can see the November month, it is a drastic change in case of the spread of the virus. Another case study, beautiful case study between two cities. One is St. Paul and the another one is, both are very close to each other. Both are facing the same pandemic, influenza pandemic. Here, St. Paul has taken care that it is a rule made that compulsory all the positive testing people should be isolated from the whole public. While in case of the Minneapolis, it was not implemented. And we can see the results, the 14,000 cases in Minneapolis, while for the same case in the St. Paul, it was 4,000 only. When we are talking about planning and response, we might have seen such scenarios everywhere in the, maybe in the news or maybe in the print media everywhere, even in the regular life also during the last 1.5 months. This is what I was talking about previously, that before 25th of March, the Indian government or Gujarat state or each of the state of India were working on strategy, how to take care of this particular COVID, how to develop our response mechanism. And for that one, they need a lot of volunteers, a lot of workmen, or a lot of action force. And to develop that, they need little time, and in form of the initial lockdown or initial phase of the lockdown, they have prepared it. And later on, either you take care of Bhilwara, where there's a successful case of the implementation of lockdown to tackle. After that particular case of Bhilwara, there's not a single case of coronavirus in that particular region. It is a beautiful example which we learned from the Rajasthan state district. If you talk about case investigation and treatment, yeah, up to somewhat acceptable level, we have now developed. Initially, it was not available, but now there are a lot of stations available to us where testing is possible or treatment is possible. Yeah, this is a beautiful case study of how technology can be useful to us. So this is the live, you might be knowing that this is the GIS platform where all the data have been uploaded. There are different layers of data. In one of the layer, you might be getting what would be the risk level at a particular minor point. The another layer would be a data of number of patients. The third layer would be talking about where the number of treatment centers are, or where the number of hospitals are available, or how many positive cases are there, and what would be the distance of my own location from those infected patients. So in that way, this particular data, you highlight how, what is the situation, current situation of my city or my town or my particular state. And another data which is available to different people is how to take care. Suppose there is a movement to move out for the emergency purpose. Then also through this data, you can find out what is the safe way to reach to a particular place. The communication gap is the biggest risk in such kind of disaster management. And we have seen the excellent case study in India. Probably I could say this is the first time in the Indian history, such kind of excellent communication system we could develop. Right from the prime minister to chief minister to different commissioners or collectors or maybe a district heads or maybe taluka heads or even normal people. Everybody knows that what is happening in the country, how they are moving. No doubt exceptions would be there everywhere, but still I would be happy that up to mark communication this time we have seen in India. No doubt it is a lockdown time, but still for the emergency purpose, you are supposed to have some logistic operations going on. And for that, there would be how we can identify a person who is moving out is having some emergency work or just roaming around. To get that particular data, there's different passes allowed, a few passes are given, and obviously surveillance. Without these, in India, there is no any possibility, not only in India, but even in the developed countries also, without surveillance, there is no any possibility of disaster management. There are different systems available nowadays. You can see on the right side that there is a possibility of thermal cameras. In a single minute, you can test more than 200%. So there's no need to stop the flow of humans. Okay, without stopping a person, you can check what is the temperature of that particular person. And within 1 minute, a single camera can test more than 200 guys. Similarly, you are having a central station or a war room where you are having all the GPS data available to you, all the gazette data available to you, and you can have a big data analysis software along with you to get the real scenario of your particular city. Facial recognition and big data analysis are the basic two tools which majority of the countries have used along with India. But India, we have used very little, but in US or in China, they have used it extensively. The artificial intelligence we have also used, particularly for analysis of the data to get the real. Yeah, these are some of the case studies which are very interesting. China has adopted 3-color system, means each and every person on the basis of that last 2-month past record to whom they met, where they visit, and the body temperature. According to that, they are giving the pass, color pass. If a particular person is having a green color, then only he can move out. Otherwise, he is not having a permission to move out. And even after that red color or yellow color, if person is moving out, then he would be taken care by the police. South Korea has used the cell phone data for their satellite tracking system. And Europe has also tried, but in Europe, they are believing in people's privacy. So they could not use the cell phone data extensively. And they are facing some issues even today. Singapore is having, they have liberalized the people privacy, particularly for this pandemic time, and they are using the data. South Asian countries are also using personal data for the protecting of the people against this particular pandemic scenario. Vietnam and Thai are also having some good strategy of using different apps or using different locational data for controlling the virus. Particularly mobile data are very extensively useful for disaster management of such kind of pandemic, because nowadays each and every person is having their own mobile, and when a person is moving, the GPS of that particular mobile is moving, and you know whom are positive infected persons, or those who are having the travel history of abroad, or they met someone who are coming from the abroad, then you can track to whom they are meeting. In that way, you can have better disaster management strategy. But the risk again that is, if this data is not used properly, then there would be a misuse. The way in which European countries are having the thinking that this would be a misused also at a later stage. But still, I believe that in India, we should have this permission, or government should have this permission to control this pandemic with the help of mobile tracking system. After going through that, the next important point is how community needs and resources can be managed. The food stocks, the medical resources, the drinking water, the fuels for vehicles and equipments, and different platforms for the communication. Yeah, these are the important resources which each and every government, or maybe a local government or central government, has to manage to take care of this whole disaster control. There are few important, beautiful technologies available nowadays through which, without human intervention, you can control the resource management. And one of the best example is robotics. Robotics in Wuhan, particularly that special medical facility which they have developed, they've used robotics very extensively. They were working as a staff, they were working as a waiter, they were preparing the meals for the patients, they were doing sanitization of the whole area along with the whole hospital. They were checking the temperature of each of the patients along with the visitors. And such kind of, and there is no any risk of the spread of that virus, because those are the robots. And such kind of beautiful case studies we can also develop in our country. But for that, we have to adapt these new advanced technologies. There is another beautiful case study of autonomous vehicles, which some of the developed countries are using nowadays to transport the medicals or food, necessity things. After relaxation, what would be scenario? This is a phase 2 where partial relaxation is given. Maybe phase 3, little more relaxation would be given. But what would be the relaxation, and under which circumstances we should move out? What I believe with my past experiences, yeah, we'll get permission to move out, but the working hours would be limited. And there would be a clause given to each and every house that they should use minimum humans and maximum technology. The digital platform use would be maximized, but yeah, there would be a safety precautions too, which everybody has to follow. The limited digital passes to visit public places may be possible in India. We could not issue the digital passes to all, but there would be a physical passes too. Without a pass, person cannot move out in the public place. We can see it, and if we can do it, we can control the virus extensively even after removing the lockdown. The alteration and curtailment of working timings to minimize the crowding is the another option. Obviously, the logistic chain should not be disturbed, because otherwise the whole people would be under immense tension. So smoothly, there would be a central administrative monitoring. Intense monitoring on infected or probable infected persons, obviously. All public communications are under surveillance so that we can avoid some misuse of the public platform. And last but not least, my concluding remarks, it is the right time to adopt the advanced technologies for disaster management in urban sectors to minimize the losses. Future policy frameworks are needed, those can shape how we can use artificial intelligence, digital identity, or facial recognition system, or so many other systems that they can be used with legitimacy. After all, I would like to say we need smart people to make the city smart and safe. Without smart people, there is no any possibility of smart cities. Yeah, hazards are inevitable. Each hazard need not convert into a disaster. And as what comes in between is the culture of safety and prevention. I hope that we all will follow the norms. We all will take care of our own as well as the society preventions and mitigations. And ultimately, we all will become a safe. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Patel, for your kind address. And your presentation was very insightful, how we can include and how we can consider technology for fighting against such disasters. So now going forward, I will request our third speaker to deliver a presentation. But before that, I would like to formally introduce Professor Manvita Barari. So Professor Manvita Barari is a Dean at Faculty of Management, CEPT University, and she is a founder director of Urban Management Center. By qualification, she has done Diploma in Architecture from CEPT University, followed by postgraduate program in Urban and Rural Planning from CEPT University. And she has also undertaken various other courses and training programs organized by University of Virginia, University of Illinois, and United Nations Environment Program. And UMC, where she is a founder director, is a not-for-profit organization working towards professionalizing urban management in India and in South Asia. She has almost 25 years of experience in developing and administering programs for local governments, capacity building of local government associations, urban and regional planning, citizen participation, municipal performance measurement, and international development. She is also empaneled as a specialist on urban management e-courses and e-learnings for municipal functionaries by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India. And additionally, she is also a member of Heritage Conservation Committee constituted by the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. So with this, now we would like to request Professor Manvita Barari to deliver a presentation.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Grateful to GICEA. Hello. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, you are audible. Yeah.
Great. I'm very grateful to GICEA and the members who have invited me for this today's talk. So I'll share my screen, and if you want to ask questions, we can do that session at the end. You can type your questions in, and I'll be happy to answer. I hope you can see the screen.
Yeah, we are able to see.
Excellent. Maybe it would cover. You can see the full screen, or
yeah, it is full screen. It is full screen.
Wonderful.
With your thumbnail.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you about disaster and urban management, specific in the context of role of communities. Now, both the speakers have spoken about how the administration is looking at how the administration and the management, the city management looks at the pandemic and in the disaster situation, what's happening. Let me go back and talk to you about how the communities are important. As you know, we have the 74th Amendment to the Constitution, which gives immense power to the urban local bodies to look at more equitably, more distinctively, and more inclusively to the populace. Now, there are decentralization of powers amended in the 74th Amendment. There is devolution of funds to the local bodies as mentioned there. And there is institutionalization of citizen participation in terms of area sabhas, ward committees, etc. Now, under the amendment, there are, as we know, there are 3 tiers of the government, and the local government is the most important, where you have to look at more comprehensively because of the devolution. The constitutional status has been given to the municipalities. The local governments tend to be strengthened. We have to strengthen them. Similarly, in 73rd Amendment, also the rural bodies are also powers. There are 18 functions, and I think this group is knowledgeable about it. In this 18 functions, in the 12th schedule, which is mentioned, and one of these is extremely important, is the urban poverty alleviation. This role has been given to the municipalities and the corporations, and they have to have their programs made available to make it more inclusive to the all citizens of the city. Now, what happens without the community involvement? What happens if we are not inclusive? What happens if the planning does not consult the people? We don't know how many poor are there. Where are the poor? I mean, the broad census, yes, it gives you numbers, but not many cities have even a comprehensive list of urban settlements, urban poor settlements, or slum-like communities. How do we find them? What support do they require in such a large pandemic situation? What kind of support, and especially in the disaster situation, what needs to be done? How do you identify them and reach out to them? Because they are the worst affected. And we know, and we've seen it. Could we not have avoided the migrant situation? Could we not have avoided is it only onto the people to be more responsive? Can the government do better? Can the government plan better and not allow the last minute rush? Well, we can. And there are examples where other states have done it, and many others can follow. The example which was brought in by one of the speakers is also about Bhilwara. This was also a very good example of the administration taking more control, more top-down approach, more, there could be a people-oriented approach. And that's what I would like us to focus today on, what Kerala did. What are the potential aspects which many of the other states and cities have missed and which Kerala has delivered? And that's probably should be our course of discussion and understanding for the future as well. The other aspect, which many of you might have known, there is a National Urban Livelihoods Mission. It's one of the flagships program of the government under the Ministry of Urban Housing and Urban Affairs. This is other programs. We know that DANUM, which is Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Urban Livelihoods Mission, like the Rural Livelihoods Mission, because it predates urban, is a program where a lot of emphasis is given to urban poor, because right now we don't have a ministry in urban poverty alleviation. You know, it got combined many years ago in about 2006. But this mission to give importance to the aspect of urban poverty and how cities can look at urban poverty in more comprehensive manner. This mission was constituted in 2013, and this government just renamed it to 2014 and made it more comprehensive. Why is it important? Because it talks about these 5 things, which is social mobilization. What would it mean? It would mean creating self-help groups, community groups to come together, deliberate on their issues, they help themselves, so that every time government does not have to really run and rush to do all the things. They take their responsibility and they are in charge. Financial inclusion. They require quick monies for their own works. There is financial inclusion with the bank, and some of the aspects we know how the banks have supported the work of the urban poor. They require skilling and placement. After there's a mission, there's a Skill India mission as well, and there is also focus under DNULM to skill the people who are living in the communities. So whether it's a masons training or it's training for the livelihoods, like even cobblers and carpenters, etc., etc. They are skilled, and then they give them placement. So there are many institutions involved into doing so. Shelter for urban homeless and street vending is also part of this mission. Now, how is it organized, and why is it important for us to know this in reference of disaster? There is a national mission management unit at the national level. So each state has state mission management units, and then followed in each city, there is a city mission management unit. They have ROs, which are the resource organizations, community organizations, and other resource persons involved into this. So this structure exists. Now it is up to the city or the state to make use of it, or do a partially good work or not good work. Now, if this structure exists, what can happen? As you know, below this, after the city mission management unit, there is also like SHG groups, as I mentioned. So under social mobilization, you have to get in about 10 to 20 women mainly. There are other for male and for mixed groups. There are it's called CIGs, which is common interest groups. So occupation-based coming together of community members is also possible. Now, this then about many SHGs and forms ALF, which is area level committee, and then CLF, which is city level committee. Now that becomes very important for us. So ultimately, it's a cascading, and it gives us a reach to all the communities who are deprived and who require help. But not only they require our help, but the help they give us is immense. And that's example which I would like to come to. And this safety net for to add to the previous point, the people who are here in the urban areas who are deprived also are part of some other safety nets as well, like Swachh Bharat Mission. There is PM Awas Yojana, there is Suraksha Bima Yojana, Ujjwala Yojana, Nutrition, Dhan Yojana, Janadhan Yojana, and Jeevan Jyoti Yojana. All these other safety nets are also made available to them through the SHG groups. And that becomes extremely important for us to know, because in the time of such disasters, people, they are equal partners in making or breaking the city. And if we don't take care of them, we are not going to reach anywhere. So what did Kerala do? And why this is important? Kerala has established systems of reaching out to people. They have not ignored the urban poor. By law, and they've used the 74th Amendment, constitutional amendment, to form ward committees. The ward committees are very active, not in like in other states where it is like a tokenism. While Kerala used ward committees to deliver, to come together, to ask, to consult. They also have neighborhood level committees, which is known as Kutumbashree. I'm sure many of you would have read. This was formed in 1996. So 74th Amendment came in 92, 93. And soon after that, Kerala was the first state to embrace the 74th Amendment, form ward committees, form Kutumbashree by 1996, and also created another platform, which is People's Plan Campaign, which they call, which is also mentioned in the Kerala Municipalities Act, which was amended soon after the 74th Amendment in 1994. So this allows them the 3-4 tiers of community engagement. And it's also, most people are part of these committees. It's not only meant for just urban poor, but there are women from other groups and sections of the society who participated. It's more, I would say, decentralized, and this is the inherent strength of Kerala, and they have been able to really flatten the curve. A lot of emphasis goes into making this. What is this experience? So what did they do as Kutumbashree experience we talk about? And now the government of India is also talking about taking the example of Kerala and talking nationally about it. They used Kutumbashree groups to broadcast precautionary measures. In other states, Kerala, the first case in India was on 1st March, and Kerala was the first one to detect it. They immediately, in 3-4 days, created, and they already had these groups on WhatsApp. So this was amazing to send out messages. What is this virus? What are we doing? And so that was a precautionary messages which were immediately sent. The program had about 1.9 lakh WhatsApp groups with 22.5 lakh members. I mean, this is really, really, really interesting to know. They had robust community-led surveillance. So if you know in the neighborhood somebody is ill, immediately this group of women would contact them and inform the health workers, and hence the health department would immediately be contacted and was being to create isolation for the family and neighborhood and so on. So Kutumbashree members stepped in massive production of personal care products. They also had an experience of their previous flooding. So, and because of their system, which is already set as neighborhood committees, they could help at that point of time as well. And immediately in COVID times, they could take this responsibility. And about 4,500 odd elderly people were also contacted and helped out. So massive action was undertaken, like reusable masks. They opened their houses and neighborhood centers for making masks. This was very, very early, even before other states could take up. This was possible because they could connect each other and the messages transfer could quickly. After the lockdown, they could really start 1,200 odd community kitchens across Kerala within 3 days of the government issuing directions. So they were ready. The people power was ready, and they could immediately support government in creating community kitchens. So the 3-tier communication system to take directives and execution of the action plan was possible because they had such committees in place. Health infrastructure was also immediately begun. I mean, you can see in the picture how quickly these structures could have been constructed, and more than 175,000 people were contacted in a matter of 15 days when it came to testing. And Kerala was one state which has really, really done that immensely well. Even village level panchayats and primary stakeholder for management of primary or healthcare, family healthcare centers were also involved into the whole work. Now, this is how the community, when it gets involved, the whole story changes. And that's for us to understand. There are some other examples I've put in. Ahmedabad took out this e-rickshaws, but nowhere near to numbers which Kerala was talking about. And that's because of the difference in the engagement levels in other cities versus in Kerala. There is ground reporting done by many other Samitis, which urban management center as well. We are involved into many of the slum areas. So what is happening in slums? What are the effects of the lockdown has been communicated to various levels of government, and this has been extremely useful as well. So I'm leaving you with these stuff, and with the last slide talking about They are helping manufacture masks, sanitizers, and are running community kitchen, educating the community members on COVID-19, fighting misinformation, and even providing banking and financial services to their communities. So without their help, no city government, no urban management is complete without taking uh, in the fold of delivering services, and they are equal partners to the city management. That's what I would like to sum up here by 4 points, saying cities are where community engagement systems and platforms are strong, have been coping better during disasters, including COVID-19, strong data systems to identify vulnerable zones, strong human resource, health, community outreach workers to be able to reach out to urban poor communities, and convergence of services under the same level of government. For instance, the health facilities, engineering, and community mobilization or UCD departments, when they come together, that is the way to move forward. And a lot of cities should learn out of these experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your detailed presentation. It was really very insightful. And now we would like to answer some of the questions. We received many questions, but we would filter them because it would be very difficult to answer all of them. And maybe I can direct the question to the concerned speaker, and maybe they will try to answer those questions. So starting with the first question, we have it from Krati Agrawal, directed to Mr. V.M. Patel, that I would like to know how management measures can be taken from local level to national level as planners.
Yeah, good question. But particularly one thing I would like to mention, that any policy, any strategy is implemented from top-down approach. Means the strategy is developed or policy is developed at the higher level, and step by step it is implemented at a lower level. While the data generation or data collection or action would be taken in the lower to upper level. So data is generated at a lower level, and slowly and gradually you accumulate it, and you pass on to the higher level, where you can take you can see the broader picture, and you can take the managerial decisions to control it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Then we have a question for Manvita ma'am, that why can't we frame out disaster management groups in part of urban and rural management systems like a devolution system?
Thank you for your question. Actually, if you read the disaster management plan, it already is there. And Mr. Patel, VM Patel would be, can also throw more light on it, because if you've read the disaster management guidelines in the Act itself, each urban local body and rural local body are supposed to have their own disaster management plans. And Kerala has made it. There is a bottom-up approach where every every September, you need to have a planning process done, which would disaster would be one of the aspects, and that plan goes up to the local body and then it's collated. So there is a system of bottom-up approach of planning here, and disaster management plan is part of the whole system. It's mandated to us. All the states are supposed to do it, but some do better than others.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Now we have a question coming from our immediate past president Bhargav Desai to Dr. Vatsal Patel, that as you explained, COVID-19 is different from other disasters, and now it is affecting more than 180 countries. So should not be there a global organization whose decisions are final and binding to all nations? Please share your views on this.
Thank you, Bhargav bhai. Your question is really very interesting, and particularly I give you one straight answer to this. See, of course, there's only one answer is there, yes, but see, this pandemic situation is first time in all over the world. आज तक जितना भी ऐसा सिचुएशन क्रिएट हुआ है वर्ल्ड वॉर फर्स्ट एंड वर्ल्ड वॉर सेकंड के सिवाय, वो सभी जगह पे ये जो आज का सिचुएशन है वो यूनिक है. There is no other past experience for even world health organizations and all others that the entire world is covered by any such type of pandemic. So actually, whatever the regulations and laws available for the WHO and other world organizations, they are not sufficient for each and every country to follow, or they are not able to force them to for the implementation of certain guidelines and certain things. Even I give you one small example. Even in USA, the federal government and state government is not following the same thing. See, president of USA is not giving mandate to the state that everyone should be locked down or you should implement such minimum standards. He just guide them. He just suggests them, but the implementation is with the government of the particular states. In United States, I'm talking. The same way WHO and World Organization can give the guideline, but they are not able to give the blank mandate to implement it. But after this COVID-19 pandemic, probably the entire world will rethink about this type of organization and their role and their power. This is my answer to you.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
Yeah, one more question for you. As you're also dealt with various infrastructure projects, so we all know there might be some impact on the infrastructure projects also. But can you assess what will be the effect of this pandemic on ongoing infrastructure projects, and is there any best suggestion to counter this in future also?
Yes, this question is particularly question obviously arise, but there is no actual final data available that which type of infrastructure projects will be affected by such type of pandemic. So without understanding the type of project, type of infrastructure project, and data after this pandemic, one cannot able to directly jump into the conclusion that what will be the effect of this pandemic on the actual ongoing infrastructure projects. But of course, the government is thinking on this by considering that, okay, projects is going on, but if required anything or whatever the next step is, government will going to decide whether what type of change is required to be done on the basis of this pandemic. But just now, there is no such data available that which type of projects are affecting due to this type of pandemic and needs to be modified or needs to be changed or needs to be stopped.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So one question for Dr. V.M. Patel, that your presentation was very apt for the present situation and your thirst for advanced technology is very appropriate. But the question is, how do we implement these technological advancements?
Yeah, a very nice question, and particularly with reference to the current time. See, we have adopted so many new technologies in the past. No doubt, particularly in India, we are so adamant about adopting the new things. But still, if you see the history, we have adopted so many things. Now is the time to adopt some advanced technologies which are available in the worldwide or across the globe. And people have tested very successfully, like drones or like autonomous cars or like sensor cameras or even mobile data. If we use such kind of technologies, definitely our controlling power, our disaster management power would be higher than what we have as on today. I truly accept that as on today, we are not so much successful in terms of the disaster management with reference to the advanced country like US or so. But still, I'm very much sure that we have acquired such strength in the last decade where we can say that with our policies and with our existing technology whatsoever we have done wonderful job. But if we adopt these new technologies, then definitely we can do wonders in future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Ma'am, a very big question for you now, that since decades, everybody talk about poor and urban people and their problems and the solution every time. It is always good if government taking the steps towards happiness of each citizen of India. But nobody ever talk about difficulties being faced by middle class for nation, especially of city area, in spite of giving his maximum towards betterment of nation by means of taxes, by being the link between all communities, user of maximum commodities, and hence a key part of nation's economy. So what are the key steps taken by and any guidance given by any institute, builders, local bodies or government specifically in this pandemic situation?
Thank you for your question. A lot of things is always being done for the middle class. The most leftover are the urban poor. So that's my perspective. All these suggestions to stay at home, did we really think about before declaring a lockdown that there are so many migrants and they will require to go home? We want our children to come back. If they've gone to study somewhere in other states and other countries, we had special flights, we had special buses. Even now, we are arranging buses. That's for the middle class, right? Where are the migrants? Did we not see the crores and crores of people standing on the streets, walking how many kilometers? Because then they're invisible. We want their work done as builders, as construction engineers. We are on the sites, we know, right? We want them. But we don't want to even accept that as the responsibility of housing them properly or giving them appropriate sanitation. So I don't agree that we are not doing for the middle class. We are always doing as a country for the middle class, but we are leaving out the migrants and the urban poor, and there is not, because they're invisible and they are a large percentage of our population. So if government is doing a little more for them, it's apt and it is necessary. We cannot survive without more inclusive and more equitable society in this nation. We just cannot. Thank you.
And ma'am, now last question for the session to you. Both the questions are to some ways related. That why Kerala has been able to build up community participation, but others are still struggling. And a related question is why Kadam Shri type of program we are not using for all over India.
Thank you. Yeah, great questions. Kerala is a unique state. It has, I mean, you might have seen if you visited, not just for travel, but they're very, very politically aware. And it has a history of more than 60, 70 years. Their literacy levels are very high. If you go to a vegetable vendor and you want to, and the vegetable vendor, you will mostly see the person with a newspaper or a magazine. And if you ask for a certain, if you want to buy a vegetable, they would finish their article and then say, hang on, I'll weigh and I'll give it to you. Does it happen here? No. Political awareness is high. The literacy is high. Because the state government has put health and education and social indicators as foremost. That is the reason that Kerala is different. They know their rights and they know their duties. Many of our states don't, and well, that's probably answering your question. I'm missing on the second one. Why
Padam Shri type of project? Padam Shri.
Why Kutumbashri is successful? Again, that's a question, right? Why is
that is the question. Yeah, can that be implemented across India?
Yeah, so Kutumbashri is now being discussed to be replicated. The current NULM fold, and fortunately Urban Management Center is a technical advisory to the ministry, and we are sitting with them in the ministry, helping the government to form guidelines for NULM, the National Urban Livelihoods Mission. Kutumbashri is one of the cases which is taken up to be replicated across the country. Now, as you all know, urban development is a state subject. So center cannot just say, hey, look, do ABC. They can learn from Kutumbashri's example, frame the guidelines and advise the state that if you do ABC, then your urban poor and your other vulnerable communities will be taken care. So that advisory is being formed, but this case study just shows that it is possible, it is in our country, and we can all follow the example of Kerala. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So thank you all the speakers for very informative insights. And now as we are moving towards conclusion, I will request our Secretary GICA, Mr. Modi, to give his vote of thanks.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
On behalf of GIC, I am thankful to today's speaker, Dr. Vatsal Patel, Dr. VM Patel, Professor Manvita Baradi, for explaining detail on the subjects and sharing their views. I am also thankful to Yash Majetia for excellent coordinating this webinar. I am also thankful to all participants for joining in this webinar and making it grand success. One more announcement. Additionally, I would like to inform that next fourth webinar scheduled on 26 April, Sunday at 11 a.m. Subject is post-lockdown professional practice adjust at the new normal. This webinar is for and by the architects, civil engineers, structural engineers, utility consultant, interior designer. Panelists will discuss post-lockdown scenario for various professions as mentioned. See, Anand Tatu, eminent architect, former president of GISA, will deliver introductory note and will moderator of the session. Event details and registration link will be shared soon. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So we hereby conclude this session. Thank you everyone for joining in large numbers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anita ma'am.